At his graduation party, I stood by the pool in a white dress I bought just for him, expecting a proposal his mom hinted it was coming. Instead, he clinked his glass, pulled out his phone, and read my private texts out loud. Texts I sent to my best friend. About him. About how I didn't trust him. About how I saw him flirt with other girls. Everyone laughed when he said, "I guess she's the toxic one." I just stood there, frozen. 2 weeks later, his dream internship mysteriously fell through, and his ex started texting me. They say trust your gut, right? Well, my gut had been screaming at me for months. But when you're in love, or at least pretending to be, it's easy to mute the alarms. You start calling anxiety overthinking, and red flags become cute little quirks. I met Mason during our sophomore year in college. He was charming in that I know I'm hot but still sorta humble way. Everyone liked him. Professors, girls, guys, my mom. And God, he made me feel seen. Like he actually listened, remembered things, cared. At least at first. Fast forward 2 years. We were graduating. He was valedictorian. I was, well, the supportive girlfriend who put her own dreams on pause to help him build his. Cue tiny violins. So when his mom texted me saying, "Make sure you wear something nice," I think tonight's special, I kinda lost it. Not outwardly, inwardly. Like, full panic laugh cry in my closet. A proposal? After everything? Let me back up. A month before the party, I caught him DMing some girl named Liv on Instagram. It wasn't technically cheating, no meetups, but he'd told her he was single. Full. I just got out of something toxic energy. And the worst part? I didn't even confront him. I screenshotted it, sent it to my best friend Ruby, and said, "Am I crazy or is this again?" Because it wasn't the first time. That's the thing, it was always something. A sketchy follow, a heart on a bikini pic, a vague plan that didn't add up. Ruby wanted me to break up with him back in March, but I didn't. I said, "It's almost graduation, I'll ride it out." Ride it out. Like, my relationship was a lease. Anyway, by the time the party rolled around, I had a plan. Not a revenge plan, just protection. I started texting Ruby everything, every little thing that felt off, just in case I ever needed proof I wasn't crazy. Turns out, I wasn't, but I was sloppy. So yeah, graduation party, his parents' backyard, fairy lights, fancy charcuterie, everyone in semi-formal like it was a damn wedding. I wore this white midi dress with the tiniest slit. Elegant, low-key sexy, his favorite. I curled my hair, put on red lipstick, smiled so hard my cheeks hurt. I was ready to be proposed to. Or dumped, just not. Roasted. But I'll get to that. Right now, I just need you to picture me standing under those twinkly lights, holding a glass of cheap champagne, faking small talk with his cousin while watching Mason across the lawn. He was laughing with some girl I didn't recognize, probably someone from his econ class. Hand on her arm, leaning in a little too close. Classic. And then he saw me. Winked. I should have walked out then. But I didn't. I smiled back. Because I still thought, maybe tonight he proves me wrong. Yeah. No. Tonight he proved exactly who he was. And I? I proved that I'm not the girl you humiliate without consequences. So I stood there, champagne bubbling in my glass and in my throat, trying not to spiral. Mason was making his rounds like some frat boy politician, all charisma and cologne. Every time our eyes met, I thought, is this it? Is he about to kneel down with a ring? Or just ghost me mid-party? The whiplash was unreal. Ruby had warned me, she always does. You're playing chess against a dude who thinks TikTok is a personality. And maybe that was the problem. I was playing chess. Mason? He was playing Jenga with a blindfold on, just pulling emotional blocks out of our relationship one by one, waiting to see when it all crashed down. I checked my phone for the 5th time in 10 minutes. Ruby hadn't shown up yet. She promised she would, even though she hated Mason with her whole soul. My phone buzzed. Ruby, 10 minutes out. Don't let him corner you without me there. I smirked. She got me like no one else. Then suddenly, a hush fell over the crowd. The kind that makes your spine straighten, even before you know why. Mason was standing on the little wooden deck near the pool with a champagne flute, and that smug look, the one he gets before he gives a speech, or tells a story that somehow makes him look like the hero and the victim at the same time. He clinked the glass. Hey everyone, I just want to say a quick thank you. Cue the applause. Eye rolls. A few woo girls in the back. Graduation's not just about moving on. It's about leaving behind the things that held you back. I froze. Something about his tone was off. Too performative. Too rehearsed. And sometimes, the people closest to us turn out to be the ones dragging us down. Laughter. Nervous. Confused. My stomach dropped. Mason pulled out his phone and smiled wide. Let me read you something. He opened his texts. And my heart stopped. I recognized the thread instantly. My messages. To Ruby. About him. June 3rd, he said, like a villain in a Netflix teen drama. I don't know why I'm still with him. He lies like it's breathing. I caught another flirty DM today. Is it gaslighting if I already know the truth? The crowd murmured. A few laughs. Someone even went, damn. I was frozen. Like dream state frozen. You know when you're so embarrassed, your body physically leaves the chat? That was me. He kept reading. I'm staying until graduation. Then I'm done. I just need one more lie to make it easier. That one got an ooh, O-H-H-H. Like a damn halftime show. I was shaking. Not crying. Not yet. Just burning. Mason lowered the phone, shrugged casually. I guess she found that one last lie. But it wasn't mine. He looked straight at me. Cheers to freedom. And everyone laughed. Like it was a roast. Like I was the joke. Someone literally patted his back like he'd dropped a killer punchline. And I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even blink. I just smiled. A tiny, tight-lipped, terrifying smile. Because, oh baby, he thought that was checkmate. But he didn't know the game had just started. After the laughter died down, there was this weird, hollow silence, like the kind that sits between heartbeats when something traumatic just happened, but your body hasn't caught up yet. People went back to sipping drinks and pretending they weren't just part of a real-life Mean Girls moment. A few avoided my eyes. A few gave me that look, equal parts pity, and girl, how did you not see this coming? And Mason, he was glowing, so proud of himself, like he just reinvented the genre of breakups. He clinked glasses with his boys, smiling like the villain in a CW show that doesn't get renewed past season 2. I could still hear the echo of my words in his voice. Just need one more lie to make it easier. He had taken my private fears, my raw-ass confessions, and turned them into a public spectacle. For what? Applause? Power? Drama points? I didn't cry. That shocked me. I didn't run. That shocked him. Instead, I took another sip of champagne, straightened the strap of my dress, and walked slowly toward the pool. Every step felt like it echoed through the backyard. And then, like divine timing, Ruby finally showed up. She walked in holding a bottle of Prosecco like she was bringing a weapon to a duel, sunglasses still on, and wearing a red mini dress that screamed, "I'm not the one today." She spotted me, paused, then her eyes flicked to Mason. She clocked the vibe instantly. She didn't even need to ask. I mouthed, he read my texts. Her eyebrows shot up so fast I thought they'd fly off her face. She stormed toward me like the whole place was on fire. "Are you okay?" she whispered, her voice low but intense. I laughed, like an actual laugh. Not because it was funny, God, no, but because it was so over-the-top ridiculous. I whispered back, "You want to burn it all down?" Ruby didn't hesitate, always. Now here's what Mason didn't know. I didn't just send those texts for comfort. I sent them because I wanted a record. I knew he was shady, but I also knew he was the kind of shady who always made me look like the problem. So I started documenting everything. Screenshots, dates, voice notes, DM, receipts, even a frickin' spreadsheet. And now, as he stood across the yard, basking in his self-made spotlight, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Control. He might have gone off script, but I still had the rest of the damn play. Ruby looped her arm through mine. "So, what's the move?" I took a deep breath, then looked her in the eyes. "We play the long game," she smirked. "Ooh, slow burn vengeance, my favorite flavor." We toasted, quietly, away from the crowd. Because tonight, he thought he embarrassed me. But soon, he'd realize he handed me the microphone. And I wasn't done talking. The party kept going like nothing happened. People kept drinking, laughing, taking selfies under the stupid string lights while I stood there, holding my glass like it was the only thing anchoring me to the planet. And Mason? Mason was thriving. He thought he'd just had his Beyoncé Super Bowl moment. He really believed he ended me in front of all his little worshippers. What he didn't know was that his speech was the exact confirmation I needed to move from defense to offense. Because here's the thing. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't insecure. I was right. And now I was done playing nice. Back at Ruby's place later that night, I sat on her bed with my hair in a messy bun, wiping the red lipstick off my face like war paint. She handed me ice cream and then opened her laptop like it was about to get very, very serious. She grinned. "Okay, Operation Drag Mason starts now." I paused. I don't want to ruin his life, just his reputation. She deadpanned. "Same thing, babe. We spent hours going through everything. The receipts, the Instagram DMs, the Venmo payments to a girl listed as Uber. That shady Snapchat he accidentally left open one time. Even the texts from his ex-girlfriend, Claire, who I reached out to months ago when I had my first gut check and she dropped a truth bomb that should have sent me running. Ruby organized it all into a neat little Google Drive folder titled, "Why Mason is Trash, a Compendium." And that was step one. Step 1, collect the receipts. All of them. Step 2, subtle exposure. We didn't want to just go nuclear right away. No, that's what he did. Mason was all about spectacle and drama. He needed that instant gratification. I was about precision, timing. So we started small. Ruby tweeted a blind item. "Imagine humiliating your girl at a party while your side chick is still hearting your Venmo payments." Couldn't be me. It blew up. People knew. They might not have had names, but the tea was hot, and people started connecting dots fast. Then we leaked screenshots. Not to the public yet, just to his circle, the ones who clapped the loudest when he read my texts. We DM'd 3 girls we knew were already suspicious of him, sent them proof. Not even lies, just unfiltered truth. Within 48 hours, whispers started. People unfollowed him. One girl removed all their pics together. Another reposted my tweet with the popcorn emoji. Ruby grinned at me like a proud mom watching her kid light a match. That's the sound of his social currency burning. Step 3, the one that really made it sting? That was personal. Mason had been bragging for months about this big internship he landed at a media agency in New York. Said it was his dream opportunity. Said it would make or break his future. What he didn't say. His application had me all over it. I'd helped him write his cover letter. Designed the PDF layout of his resume. Even name-dropped a former professor in my network to get him a recommendation. So when I sent a very polite, very professional email to the HR contact with timestamps, screenshots, and a respectful note that said, "I just thought you should know how he treats the people who support him," I didn't feel bad. Not even a little. Because karma doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's a quiet CC on the right email. That was all in the first week. And Mason? He started to notice. First, he blocked Ruby. Then he blocked me. Then he unblocked me. Classic panic move. His Instagram captions got weirdly philosophical. His Twitter went private. And then, he texted me. Just 2 words. "You happy?" I stared at the screen for a second. Then I typed back, "Getting there." After I sent "getting there," I thought that would be it. Curtain closed. Mic dropped. But Mason? Mason has the emotional intelligence of a potato and the ego of a failed SoundCloud rapper. Of course he wasn't done. 3 days later, he texted again. This time at 2:12 a.m. prime guilt hour. I messed up. I didn't know how else to deal with it. Deal with what? Me having feelings? Me catching him in 4K? I didn't answer. Let him sit in it. Then came the grand tradition of post-exposure damage control. The apology tour. He started hitting up mutuals. Messaging people to explain his side. He even texted Claire, his ex, the one he emotionally nuked before me. Her response? She forwarded the message to me with the caption, "Bro's doing community service now?" We laughed for like 10 straight minutes. Next, he reached out to my mom, my literal mother. Said he hoped she didn't think badly of him. She texted me immediately. "This boy has the audacity of 10 men, I never liked him." Same, Mom. Same. Meanwhile, the Google Drive? Yeah, we updated it. Added a new section called Postmortem Delusions. Ruby even designed a little faux LinkedIn-style header for fun. It read Mason D, specialist in self-sabotage and misogynistic performances. It was art. But here's the thing, this wasn't about revenge anymore. Not really. That part burned off quick. What stayed was the clarity. I started going through our old texts, photos, voice memos, all those tiny ways I'd shrunk myself over the past year, the things I'd let slide, the ways I convinced myself I was too sensitive or too much, the number of times I'd written, "Sorry, I didn't mean to make it a big deal." Spoiler, it was a big deal. A week after the party, I ran into him. Total accident. I was getting coffee at this tiny indie spot, and there he was, headphones on, hoodie up, looking like a rejected extra from Euphoria. He saw me. Froze. I didn't. I walked right past him, ordered my oat milk latte like a boss, and then he followed me outside. "Hey," he said, like we were cool, like he hadn't tried to publicly end me. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time, I didn't feel that ache in my chest. No nerves, no shaking, just boredom. He started talking. Apologies, excuses, something about feeling trapped and not knowing how to communicate. I just stood there, sipping my coffee, wondering when he'd realize that none of this was actually about me. It never was. When he finally paused, I tilted my head. I used to think if I was just a little nicer, a little quieter, a little less emotional, you'd finally love me the right way. His face fell. I smiled. But I finally realized it wouldn't have mattered. You don't know how to love someone without needing them to be smaller than you. And then I walked away. I didn't even look back. That night, Ruby and I made a playlist called For When You Realize He Was Just Tall, Not Deep. Breakups are weird when the other person doesn't die or move to another country or, like, vanish into the ocean. They stay. They post. They linger in your algorithm like a bad smell that clings to your clothes long after you've left the room. Mason wasn't in my life anymore, but he was around. He posted vague Instagram stories, screenshots of sad indie lyrics, videos of city skylines with captions like, "People change, life goes on." Bro, you cheated and got caught, not deployed. Calm down. But the real kicker? He started hanging out with this girl named Kenzie. Kenzie was the type of girl who wore claw clips before they got trendy again. She painted those wavy line TikTok canvases and called herself an empath after reading one astrology thread. Mason used to mock girls like her. Now, he was front row at her pottery showcase, reposting her Etsy store like he was her biggest fan. And it hurt. It shouldn't have, but it did. Because even after all the receipts, the manipulations, the humiliation, I still felt that echo in my chest, that little voice whispering, why wasn't I enough to make him be better? Ruby noticed the shift immediately. You're spiraling, she said one night as we sat on her balcony with wine and takeout sushi. I nodded. I know. It's like I'm grieving a version of him that never existed. Exactly, she said, popping a California roll in her mouth. You're mourning the idea of who you thought he was, not who he actually is. I took a sip of wine. So what do I do with that? I can't scream at a memory. Ruby smirked. You could, but maybe channel it somewhere more productive. So I did something terrifying. I started writing again. Before Mason, I'd been working on this short story collection, little vignettes based on messy, complicated women just trying to figure their mess. But I shelved it during our relationship because, surprise, he said it was too personal and maybe a little cringe. Translation: he felt exposed by anything that wasn't about him. Now, every night after work, I poured myself into those stories like they were oxygen. Pages and pages of real, raw feelings. Betrayal, rage, healing, hope. Stuff I'd buried under so many fake apologies. And it's not a big deal. And here's what I learned. Getting over someone isn't a straight line. It's not a checklist. It's waking up one morning and realizing you didn't check their social. It's deleting old photos without crying. It's running into their name in your inbox and not flinching. It's laughing again. Loud. Unapologetically. A month after the party, I got an email from a small literary blog I'd submitted to on a whim. They wanted to publish one of my stories. The title? White Dress. Red Flags. Ruby nearly screamed. This is it. This is your comeback arc. This is your Netflix limited series. I grinned. Nah, this is just episode 1. And in that moment, sitting on her couch, hair in a towel, fingers still stained with hot Cheeto dust, I realized something. I didn't need a man to destroy to feel powerful. I just needed to rebuild me. Okay, so you know how you think a story's over, and then life's like, wait, one more plot twist for the road? Yeah, that happened. It started with a DM from Claire, Mason's ex before me. The one he always said was too intense, clingy, emotionally unstable. You know, classic dude slander, to discredit the woman who actually saw through him first. She'd texted me once before, when I reached out for clarity during a late-night panic spiral months ago. We exchanged a few receipts, trauma-bonded over the dumb stuff he'd said to us both, and then ghosted each other like ships passing in the therapy void. But now she was back. Claire, okay, I wasn't gonna say anything, but he's telling people you cheated. Like? I blinked at my phone, took a deep breath, counted to 3. Miari, you're kidding. Claire, I wish. He told our mutual friend that you were already talking to someone else, and that's why he had to end things. Me. He read my texts out loud at a party, Claire. That was his version of ending things. Claire, I know. But Mason lives in a world where he's always the victim. I didn't even know what to say. It wasn't enough for him to humiliate me. Now he had to rewrite history too? Flip the narrative so that he came out looking like some poor, betrayed soul just trying to heal from the girl who broke his heart? Claire sent another message. I want you to know, I believe you. I saw the way he treated you even when we were still kind of talking. I was scared you wouldn't see it. That made me pause. Because it hit me Claire and I weren't rivals. We were co-survivors. Different chapters of the same horror novel. And we were done being his footnotes. We met up for coffee a few days later. Neutral ground. Tiny bookstore cafe with overpriced matcha and the smell of old paperbacks. Claire was shorter than I remembered, with thick black eyeliner and this aura of, I've seen some SHT and I dare you to test me again. We hugged awkward at first, then real. We spent hours swapping stories, comparing timelines, realizing the overlap, the manipulation, the copy-paste compliments, the way he used our insecurities against us, but spun it like tough love. At one point she said, I used to think I was just too sensitive, but now I think I was just right, and he didn't want to deal with that. I almost cried. Because yes. Then she dropped the real bomb. So he was using me for a reference on his job apps again, without telling me. My jaw hit the table. After everything? Yep, she said, popping a bite of her lemon scone. But don't worry, I already called the company. Told them I revoked my reference. And I may have casually mentioned some of his public behavior. I straight up laughed. Like, full belly laughed. We weren't just surviving him, we were uninstalling him. Brick by brick, lie by lie. On the way home, I felt lighter. Not vindictive, not vengeful. Just clear. Because that's the thing about toxic people, they love to isolate you. Make you feel like no one else gets it. Like you're the crazy ex while they waltz off into their next PR relationship. But once you compare notes with someone who's been through the same fire, you realize you were never crazy. You were just right too early. So remember that short story I wrote, White Dress, Red Flags, that got picked up by the Lit blog? Well, turns out that Lit blog also runs monthly open mic nights for local writers. And after some light peer pressure, Red Ruby peer pressuring me like it was her full-time job, I signed up. I'm just gonna read it once, I said. Ruby? She just smirked. And then we get tacos after. Whether you bomb or become famous. Win-win. She always knew how to anchor me. The night of the event, I was a mess. Not because I was scared to read the story. I knew it by heart. I lived it. But something about reading my trauma in a room full of strangers, aloud, hit different. I wore this oversized blazer and boots combo that made me feel like a confident bisexual poet. Hair pulled back. Lip gloss. Earrings that said, "Don't FCK with me," in the shape of tiny daggers. The place was packed way more than I expected. Dim lights, creaky chairs, the smell of cheap wine and fresh anxiety. Ruby sat in the front row, obviously. Claire showed up too because yeah, we're friends now. She brought flowers and a flask. Iconic. My name got called. I walked up to the mic. My palms were sweating but my voice? Steady. I started reading. And people listened. Like, really listened. Every time I dropped a line that hinted at Mason's BS, you could feel the shift in the room. Heads nodding. A few gasps. One from the back that made me smile mid-sentence. And then I looked up, and there he was. Mason. In the back corner. Hoodie, baseball cap, hands shoved deep in his jacket like he was trying to physically shrink himself. I almost forgot my next line. Almost. But I didn't stop. I looked straight at him and kept going. I used to think that love meant making yourself small, soft, forgivable. But I don't shrink for anyone anymore. Mic. Drop. The applause was loud. Unexpected. Beautiful. I stepped off stage, heart pounding, but my body buzzing like I'd just done something holy. Ruby hugged me so hard I spilled half my wine. Claire screamed. That was a cultural reset. And Mason? He left. Didn't say a word. Didn't wait for me after. Just disappeared. Later that night, I got a text. Mason. That story was about me, wasn't it? I stared at it for a full minute, then typed, "If the shoe fits, lace it up and walk your ass out of my life." And I blocked him. For real this time. No maybe one days. No secret folder with old pictures. No emotional leftovers reheated at midnight. Just gone. I didn't need revenge anymore. I had something better. An audience. A voice. Me. 2 months post-party, and my phone background was no longer a photo of Mason and me at some vineyard pretending to be classy. It was now a picture of me and Ruby flipping off a mirror in matching face masks, wine glasses in hand, laughing so hard we looked slightly unhinged. The vibe? Unbothered but hot. I was thriving in that quiet, low-key way that doesn't need to be announced. My story got shared online. A few more blogs reached out. One editor even said, "Your writing feels like a punch to the chest in the best way possible." Therapy? Booked. Toxic ex? Blocked. Skin? Glowing. Boundaries? Sharpened like knives. And then, someone new entered the chat. It started at a secondhand bookstore. I was minding my business, looking for a poetry collection that made me feel something other than rage or sarcasm, when I noticed someone standing in the same aisle. Tall, glasses, corduroy jacket. The type of guy who probably owns too many notebooks and actually reads author dedications. I pulled out a copy of Milk and Honey and immediately rolled my eyes. Not because it's bad, but because, of course, it was front-facing like it was 2015 Tumblr again. He saw me smirk and asked, "Overrated?" I looked at him. Overexposed. But still hits when you're heartbroken and drinking Pinot Grigio in the bath. He laughed. A real one. Fair. I'm more of a love poems that feel like they'll ruin your week kind of guy. I raised an eyebrow. That's a niche genre. He held up a book, Ocean Vuong. Okay, points for taste. We started talking. About books. And bad writing. And breakups. Okay, that part slipped out when I accidentally mentioned white dress, red flags. He'd read it. Of course he had. Apparently, it had gone semi-viral in his little writing circle. "That was you?" he asked, visibly impressed. I literally used that piece in a class. One teach. As an example of emotionally grounded prose. "Sir, what? You're a teacher. Creative writing adjunct," he said, scratching the back of his neck like he was suddenly shy. "Also bartend on weekends. Because, you know, capitalism." I laughed. "You had me at Ocean Vuong and lost me at bartending. Do you at least make strong drinks?" "I make a mean Negroni. And a terrible mojito." His name was Eli. And before you ask, no, I didn't fall head over heels in love right then and there. This isn't a Wattpad FIC. I didn't see stars. I didn't hear violins. But I did feel safe. And interested. And something in my gut whispered, this is different. We exchanged numbers. He texted later that night, "Eli, next time you roll your eyes at poetry, save it for me. I'll bring the wine." And for once, I didn't panic. Didn't overthink. Didn't ask Ruby to decode the message. I just smiled. And replied, "Only if you promise to hate read Milk and Honey with me. Because maybe healing doesn't mean swearing off love forever. Maybe it just means being so whole that the next person isn't a lifeline. They're a bonus." I didn't expect to see Mason again. Not in real life, anyway. I figured he'd stay locked in my do not engage vault, somewhere between bad decisions and expired lip gloss. But life loves irony. It happened at a mutual friend's engagement party. Not our close friend, someone orbiting the outer rings of our college group, someone who didn't get the breakup memo, or was too polite to uninvite either of us. Ruby couldn't make it, and I almost didn't go either. But I'd RSVP'd with Eli, and honestly, I was curious to see how it would feel to walk into a room and not be the girl Mason thought he broke. I wore this slinky black satin dress that said I cry in therapy, not in front of exes. Eli showed up in a navy button-down that made him look like the boy your parents actually want you to date. We arrived a little late. The place was buzzing. People laughing, dancing, wine glasses clinking. I was fine, more than fine, until I saw him. Mason, standing by the drinks table in a wrinkled gray suit, hair longer than it used to be, eyes scanning the room like he wasn't totally comfortable in his own skin anymore. Our eyes met, just for a second, and I swear he looked nervous. Not the confident, smirking guy who stood over a crowd and humiliated me with his petty little performance. No, this version. This was the aftershave of the man who used to be Mason. Faded, watered down, trying too hard. Eli leaned in. Is that? Yeah, I said, sipping my wine. That's the ghost of boyfriends past. I wasn't going to say anything. Truly, I'd done the work. I had nothing to prove. But fate, and an open bar, had other plans. Because later that night, as I stepped outside to get some air, he followed me. Hey. Just that one word, heavy with too much meaning and not enough substance. I turned around slowly. Wow. It speaks. He laughed, but it died quickly. You look good. I stared. You look like you're still figuring it out. He exhaled sharply. Okay, fair. He paused, fidgeted with the cuff of his shirt. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. Not just the party. All of it. I didn't interrupt. I let him speak. Because this wasn't for him. It was for me. I was insecure. Immature. And you didn't deserve that. He looked down. And I read your story. The one you performed. I've never felt that kind of shame before. Good. But I didn't say that. I just tilted my head. Did you come out here to clear your conscience, or to see if I'd say it's okay? He blinked. Because he didn't know the difference. I'm glad you're apologizing, I said. But you don't get closure just because you're finally feeling the consequences. Silence. Then I added, you want forgiveness? That's between you and your therapist. And I turned around and walked back inside.